the AIAA Florida Central Branch. So that's great. We have a nice joint meeting going on. And we have pie and we have pizza coming. So it's going to be a lot of fun tonight. I think we have a really great GBM. Oh, and of course, as you guys know, I'm your president, Mikael Donawala. Everybody could call me Mickey. And yeah, let's get started. So who are we? We are AIAA at UCF. Well, we mainly do, it's American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics. What we mainly do is projects-based stuff. We're trying to lean into socials, but we mostly focus on project-based stuff. The main projects we really do here are rocket design, quadcopter design, aviation design, and hovercraft design. Those are the 4 main projects, and our goal is to use these projects to try to get you as much experience, real life experience, so you could go into the workforce and and have a good time and you get and have fun. Of course, this is our board. And these are 2 advisors. We have Dr. Kenzel and we have Dr. Agahari. Of course, sadly, Kenzel's leaving. It sucks. Yeah, I don't know. It sucks. Looking for a new advisor. We have some ideas on that, but you guys, we'll keep you guys updated. So watch the announcements. That's Andrew, Secretary. Yeah.
All right, so I'll make this quick because this is already coming up really quick, and if you don't know about it, then you're probably not going to go to it already. But AIAA holds student regional conferences that you can attend. This year for our student conference or for our region, it'll be in Cocoa Beach, 1 hour away from us. So if you are interested in learning about what your peers are doing in terms of research, if you're interested in presenting your own research, if you just want to do some networking at a nice student event, this is definitely an opportunity that you should be interested in and should look up. If you have any questions about it, feel free to ask me, or obviously, just go online, search it up. Should be April 4th, 5th. Yeah, it's a pretty straightforward event.
Thank you. And of course, this is our media team for this year. Of course, as you guys know, they're new to us, and honestly, they're doing really, really good work. I'm really proud of them. I'm proud of all of my officers. You guys do all great work. This is a event coming up. I know we didn't do that many socials, so this is one of the socials that we're really, really excited for. It's a barbecue that we're going to do in Lake Claire, I believe, yeah. Lake Claire with SUI, Society of Women Engineering. So if you want to go, which I do encourage you go, please go. I just want to meet you guys, spend time with you guys, enjoy time with you guys. Please RSVP. I'm pretty sure we will be posting this, or we have posted this already. So if you don't do it now, you could just scroll up in our announcements. I'm sure we'll announce it again, as you know. Just please RSVP. We need to know how much food to get. And I would love to have a rock design lead come up and tell us about update us on the project. Dylan, everybody.
Hello, everybody. My name is Dylan Moga. I'm one of the rocket design co-leads up here with my faithful co-worker, Lucas Bello. We also work with Zach Morris, who right now is currently out doing some cool space stuff with the big company. So we'll be out here representing the rocket design. So rocket design, what we do is we like to do 2 main projects, and what we like to put a lot of emphasis on is getting people started from the bottom and work them up on the basics of rocketry. We start them out with simulation, we move them in a building, and then we take them all the way to launch day. So what it sort of looks like in the falls, we get them into teams, we get them building a whole rocket together, learn all the basic concepts, all the softwares, and we send them out to launch. And then in the spring where we are now, we try to bring out for certification flights for their level 1 high power rocketry certification, which is what we're gearing up for right now. This weekend is actually our first launch, Saturday. We've seen some orthodox designs and some very unorthodox designs, but we're really excited to see them all go off. If you guys would like to join on our project, of course, we start back up in the fall, and we'd be happy to have you guys.
I just want to give a little bit of a heads up. A lot of these projects are already closed, but again, all of them will be open fully in the fall. Quadcopter design, everybody.
My name is Connor Tyson. I'm the quadcopters lead. In this project, you'll learn how to build, design, and fly your own quadcopter. We utilize SolidWorks to build the ports. We laser cut the frame and all that. Also, we utilize a flight simulator to practice. We can practice flying. We also have a flight day where everybody comes out and flies, and we have a build day. Everybody builds their quad. Right now, we're of course on the design and building stage. The CAD work is already almost complete. We're working on scheduling a build day here soon. So, yeah, we are also closed. If you want to join in, we'll be starting again next fall. And this is a semester-long project, so it's only for one semester. But yeah.
Thank you. Next is hovercrafts.
I'm Ethan. I am the hovercraft lead. The assistant lead is Nathan over there. All right, so hovercrafts, it's a one semester project. Each semester we have a different sort of competition. This semester we're doing stunt racing. And basically with this project, we are teaching people how to build RC controlled hovercrafts. These are smaller scale. We start with just the design basics, then we teach CAD and everything from scratch, then we go on to manufacturing and flying them. Right now we're finishing up the CAD process. Hopefully we should be getting into the lab to laser cut pretty soon, and then we will host our competition. If you're interested, we'll be reopening signups in the fall, where we should hopefully be holding a jousting competition.
Thank you, Ethan. Next, if we could have someone from AVD please come up.
I'm Zach Gaudio. I'm the lead for AVD, along with my two wonderful assistants. Just kidding. There's only one, Jackie. The others didn't show up. So I'm here representing Forum. What do? We make RC plates. It's awesome. It's fun. We are one of two semester projects, the other being DBF, which is basically just a grown-up version of this. By the way, just saying, for any AVD people who might want to do that next year, you know where to find me. So right now, we're just kind of, we're waiting on a build date. It's going to come after spring break. Alrighty, we almost have our fly day set up. I know you guys have been asking a little bit about that. We finally heard back from the fly fields. We've got something kind of worked out. We'll see. So that's more or less what's going on. Yep.
Appreciate it. And our DBF team, as you know, like he mentioned, we do have a DBF team, and it is a senior design team. I think I mentioned last time that they are pretty much, they're done with the plane. It flew. Again, I did say I was gonna get you guys videos. I lied. Sorry. I will get the videos. We will get them posted. I'm pretty sure if you go to the DBF Discord, they actually should be there. Don't fact check me though. I will get the videos. I will publish them for you guys, so we can enjoy the work of AIAA, of our chapter at least. And if we could have Pegasus pilots come up.
Hey, this might be a bad time to ask. Is there a dress code for guest speakers? I should have asked you this 4 hours ago. It's too late, though. Whatever. Hey, what's up, guys? For some reason, they decided to invite me back. I've been given roughly 5 minutes to speak, so I'm going to take advantage of that while I have you here. For those of you who saw me last time, good to see you again. For those of you who haven't seen me, my name's Andrew, the proud president of Pegasus Pilots, the brand new premier aviation RSO here at the University of Central Florida. And I was asked to come back because apparently the people at AIAA have some interest in flying planes, weirdly enough. So here I am. Now, I should probably talk to you about the things we've done, because the last time I was here, it was in February, and we've done a couple things since then. So I'll keep it on this slide and talk about what we do for the people who are new. The idea and the reason why we exist is because prior to our existence at the University of Central Florida, there was absolutely nothing for people with an interest in flying planes. If you wanted to fly planes, you go to the local airport, that's cool. But at UCF, there was nothing. Now, we've changed that. One of the most common questions I get is, Andrew, I know nothing about planes, but I want to be involved. How can I get involved? Can I even join? The answer to all those questions are yes, 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 probably not, and yes, because we welcome everybody. Either it's a career, it's a hobby. You don't even know what you want to do. We take everybody from all levels of experience. I'm instrument rated private pilot John Bradley right there, that cool gentleman, the coolest college job, working on F-15s. Damn, I'm jealous. I always like to bring that point up, but I really am. That's so cool. We have people, Enoch has like 900 flight hours. We have people that are just getting started. And we have all types of people joining us now from different types of backgrounds. Our media director, Josh Heidhouse, the one and only, who isn't here with us right now, he's a political science major. And in the Discord, which you can join by scanning the Instagram QR code, there's a link to it. If you're technologically advanced, you'll see it. You will see that there are people from all types of majors and different types of graduate levels that are joining. We have master's, PhD students joining us. Again, different types of college majors joining us. So there really isn't any particular background required, and there isn't any prior experience required. We have a couple bold goals, one of which is to build and fly a plane with humans in it. That's the question that I always get. Like, I go to SGA just to make sure, are there going to be people in this? Yes, there's going to be people in this. That's the whole point. Otherwise, we'd be just copying what you guys are doing. So that's one of our big and bold goals. Some other things along the way is to have partnerships with flight schools, give out free flights, because who doesn't want a free flight? You know, that'd be pretty cool. And then some other things, like we just came back from our planning meeting. That's why I'm kind of dressed like this, for sun and fun, to go and network and have a lot of fun under the sun. That's what it's called. So let me see if I missed anything up there. Oh yeah, guest speakers. That's the big one. We actually had our first guest speaker. Yes, 1 week. I know I looked at my watch. So that doesn't help. 1 week ago from today, we had our first guest speaker, Phil DeMaria. He is a former battalion chief with Miami-Dade Fire Rescue, and he is still a firefighter, but he does it from a couple thousand feet in the air as a pilot for the Florida Forest Service. And we got to talk with him for a decent while, pick his brains out and go nerdy on all the cool stuff. And if you look at the meeting, which is all of our meetings are recorded on YouTube, by the way. This one was really good. Good audio because we had that little nice microphone. And it was also in 4K. That's the important part, right? So we have hopes and ambitions of doing things such as having guest speakers. That's just one of them. Yeah, I've covered it all. Let's go to the next slide, please. Oh, look at that. Pictures. Pictures are great. You guys haven't seen pictures last time, but this time we got some. Okay, so let's go over the important ones. This is when we elected our officers. It was kind of a quick impromptu meeting, but we got it done. This was from our guest speaker. Hey, Mickey, does that person look familiar to you?
A little bit, yeah.
Traitor! I'm kidding. He isn't here with us, but he isn't here with us tonight, I should say, because he's going to watch the rocket launch. But this gentleman, oh, you can't see it because it's so pixely, but that's Anthony Westerkamp. We actually went to high school together because I had the same exact goal, the same ambition. When I was in 8th grade, I emailed Embry-Riddle, hey, can we have flying classes? And they said no, because it just wouldn't happen that quickly. But I still made it happen. I started an aviation club when I was in high school. Here I am in college doing the exact same thing because some things don't change, and I guess that's just one of them. So I've been doing this for a while. As you can tell, I love what I do. I'm very fortunate to do what I love. These are some other recent pictures from our outreach presentations. This is me telling the person at Starbucks to remake my iced caramel ribbon. You put those pumps of hazelnut in it, make it the way I want it. I'm kidding. And then this is some other cool shots, again, from our wonderful media director, Josh Heidhouse. So we've been doing a lot of stuff. Again, please go scan those codes. Join us, see what we do. We're happy to get you involved. And a lot of people think, oh, I want to fly. But it never happens. We want to give you that chance to make it happen. I do this all, I'm not done yet. Hold the applause, hold the applause. I do this all the time. People look at me like I'm cool. It's not that hard. But I was getting 5 minutes, and as pilots, you have to be precise. I just covered 5 minutes. Thank you so much for your time. You guys have a great one.
And we move on to the part where it's sad. This is a sad part of the speech, right? Of course, we can't be e-board forever, so we're looking to fill in our spots. So if you're interested in e-board, these are the positions, of course, that we have. We're getting to the point where we actually need to start sending out forms so you guys can start really actually applying. So we will actually go in depth for e-board, at least specifically, on the positions that are available. Of course, there's president, me. It's basically, well, so there's master of ceremonies, which is exactly what I'm doing right now. It's giving the speeches when you need to give a speech. It's talking at the GBMs when you need to talk about the GBMs. It's when we have events and there's any guest speakers, you need to be there and you need to overview it. You need to be good socially. You need to be able to go talk to anybody and everybody. Your job is you're the face of the club, and it's very important that you're able to go and talk to anybody, make friends with everybody, and overall, just be a friendly person to all your members. You want to be someone that your members could come and talk to. So if that sounds like something you are, that's a big part of it. So of course, there's other stuff as well. I'm getting to it. Whoa, come on, man. Of course, there's being in contact with other RSOs. We've worked with KXR, we worked with SWE, we're working with SWE. That's a big one because a lot of the times, a lot of the aerospace clubs step on each other's feet. So, we need to make sure that doesn't happen too much. So that's really important. Sign off on our documentation if you like signing your name on stuff. This is it. Aid in the creation of budget. It's really just helping our treasurer, Alessandro, which eventually you might see, you might not actually see him. It's just supposed to help him with the budgeting, ensure all the members, it's check and balances, make sure all your e-board fellow board members are doing what they need to do. Pursue funding, send out emails to companies, and try to get as much funding as you possibly can for the club. Of course, it's kind of hectic. You just got to keep sending emails. You got to keep sending emails. You got to keep sending emails. And then delegate work. That's it is what it says. It's just being able to delegate work. There is more to it. I didn't include in the slide because I didn't want to take up too much time. But if you're interested on the new constitution, you're able to go look at it. Well, almost new. You're able to go look at it and see exactly what it says verbatim. Of course, it's worded nice and pretty, not like this. So if you're interested in that, please, I push you to go look at it.
Hello, I'm Emma. I'm the Vice President of AIAA, and some of the roles include helping out the president with whatever they need. Also involves a lot of communication, with external and internal affairs with UCF, and then just reaching out to other organizations for different opportunities, whether that be volunteering or just events going on around Orlando. And then another big thing is also being sociable to be able to maintain relationships with other RSOs. So, yeah.
So treasurer, this is one of the most important positions in our organization. Not because the amount of work, it's just the money. That's what makes everything run, basically. Also, if you have a great treasurer, your club will run amazingly. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Alessandro's actually back there. I'm just explaining his slide because I'm already up here. He does great work. Yes. Please. Not that we don't do great work, but I just want to throw that out there. So yeah, as treasurer, anything that comes in, anything that leaves, you're taking it in. You're seeing, you're adding it to your Excel sheet. You're checking everything. Anything that has to do with projects. You're giving them, hey, this is your budget for the year. Yeah, they have to come tell us, okay, well, we need this to make this work for this many students. And you're sitting there and you're trying to figure out the best way to go about doing that. Of course, you're always making that budget for them in the beginning of fall and spring. And of course, the last one is just making sure we don't go broke, right? We don't overspend. We don't do anything like that. When we buy pizzas, when we buy pies, making sure what we can do for a GBM, what we can't do for a GBM. Project chair.
Hi, I'm Nathan. I'm the current project chair. And if any of you are thinking about project chair, this is what you would do. Project chair is basically responsible for getting all of the project leads, all the resources that they need to succeed, and making sure that you're overseeing all of that process. So you're overseeing all the projects. You're at the beginning of your term, you're interviewing and selecting the new leads for the semester. And then at the beginning and throughout the whole year of your term, you are ensuring that the projects have the materials and the resources that they need, any support that they need, especially if there's projects with a lot of new leads. And then throughout the year, you are monitoring them. You are making sure that they are fulfilling the project up to the standards that we have at AIAA UCF. You're also going to work with the treasurer and your project leads on the budgets that they need to make sure that they get all the materials that they need. And just overall being the point of contact for all of the projects. This is a very important role in our organization because we are a project-based organization here at UCF. That is the main thing that we do and that we offer to students. So this is a very key role in how we help the student body.
Our secretary is not up here either, so I guess I'm going to cover his slide as well. Oh, there it is. Oh, there it is. Come here. Okay. I lied. I'm sorry. Secretary. There you go.
Yeah, so secretary, it's a pretty straightforward position. What you do most in this position is you manage mainly all of the external communications with the project. So what that looks like is just emailing professors, emailing other faculty, emailing anyone you need to set up an event, anything that the club is doing that requires other RSOs, companies, individuals, you're going to be sending those emails. You're going to be the main point of contact for all those lines of communication. You'll also be responding to a lot of emails from the website, just about general things and all that stuff. Other than just that more social aspect, you're also going to be doing a lot of paperwork and doing a lot of scheduling all the rooms and making sure all the operations of the club flow smoothly and allows the club to actually go forward. And then of course there are also maintaining records for the membership counts, helping the treasurer with some of the inventory stuff. Just pretty much a lot of logistical work. If you're okay with that, if you're good with like a somewhat accounting mindset, if you have somewhat social skills with sending emails, I would say this is a great position for you. So yeah.
Thank you. So this is the form for, this is the intent to run form. I do, before I know anyone pulls up their phone and scans it, I do want to say all of these, I know it's not like in the Constitution or whatever, but it is every board member, every position is, you need to be able to be sociable. You need to be able to talk to everybody. And it's, at the end of the day, it's, you're working for this help to better the student body. So if that's something you really do enjoy, you want to help your peers, it's really fulfilling in my opinion. That's really why I'm here. I really like it. So if that's something you're interested in, I definitely, you should run. As well, make sure you have the time as well.
And then I just wanted to say something on this. If you even have an inkling of wanting to run, I would really heavily encourage you to just do it. It is, don't get caught up in the mindset of, oh, well, I'm not even going to do it because there's no way I'm going to win. It can happen. All you have to do is show that you've been involved in this club and that you have an interest and a passion for improving the student body, improving what we do as an organization, helping us run. All of that. We need student leaders. We need people that are passionate about the project, who have been, or about the club, and that have been involved in our projects and love what we do. And that's basically the only requirement, is that you love what we do and want to further that goal. So please, we heavily encourage you to do it. Don't just get caught in the mindset that there's no way I'm going to win. You can, as long as you put yourself out there.
Yes.
So is this for like total positions for the entire club, or is this also for like which one specific division?
This is for the UCF club overall.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, yeah.
Of course, we have our merch. I don't know if a lot of you guys have seen it, but this is it. This is the design we came up for this year. It caused us a lot of trouble. It was great, but I loved it. I got it done by a friend of mine. We paid them, and it made everyone very happy. But it was a ton of colors, has a lot of gradients, and when we went to go, hey guys, like, let's get it printed. They're like, it's gonna be a lot of money. So thanks to you guys, we got enough pre-orders that it's actually happening. So I was super excited about that. I really do want to say thank you for the people who did pre-order the shirts already. The first pickup is going to be at the barbecue social. Of course, we're going to have them at all the GBMs as well. And you should order more if you not if you've already ordered one. If you already ordered one, one is enough. But if you haven't ordered one, I'm looking at everybody. Please order one. This is a great shirt. I definitely will be wearing it all the time. I'm really proud of it. I thought you were going to. It's okay.
Okay, as we're wrapping up the AIAA at UCF part of this event, I want to talk about memberships, especially with this being a joint event with the Central Florida section. I want to clarify the dues situation that we have. We are the student section AIAA at UCF. We have a set of dues, and then AIAA, the national organization, also has a set of dues. The way that we like to explain it is that AIAA at UCF spans your scholastic career, and AIAA National spans your professional career. So to participate in all the stuff that we've been talking about today, all of our projects, things like the DBF team, anything like that, that is paying the AIAA UCF dues. And then AIAA, the national organization, gives you access to national conferences, events, publications, networking opportunities, specialized technical committees and resources. This here is an event that is joint between us, but obviously they hold their own events separate from that. So that allows you to go to those things.
Yes, I wanted to add that dues are free. There's no dues for students that want to do professional organization while they're students. There's no, it's free.
For your section, but for the national, there is a student.
AIAA National is $30.
High school's free.
Okay.
They charge for college. Yes. They definitely took my money.
Yeah, it's the national organization is $30.
Yeah.
So just want to clarify that situation.
Skip it. Yeah. So now, what you guys have been really waiting for, we have our pizza and pie break. Of course, we got pie because it's Pie Day. Woo! We're nerds. We love this. But we do need to check you guys in, and of course, we're going to do paying members first. This isn't included anybody that's from the Central Florida section, of course. Hi, so if we could have everyone simmer down a little bit, please. We do have our speaker up already. His Walter Hammond. He's going to introduce himself, of course, and he's going to be talking about human space exploration. So we can give a welcome to him, please.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me here. Today is Pi Day. There was a launch this morning, Starship, and it was successful, I think. Got to orbit. Just the first stage kind of it crunched when it fell, but I'd call it a success. Okay, I'm just going to have to hold this. Can y'all hear me? Okay. So today's talk is about space exploration, and I really should have put space exploration past, present, and future, because I am going to go to the past, because you got to know the past so that you can get to the present, and you got to know the present, you can get to the future. And okay, here we go. All right, I'm going to hold it. So there's key enablers for space exploration. These are just my thoughts. To explore space, you got to launch, and to launch, you need launch systems. You're going to need mobility in space. You're going to need surface transportation on the surfaces of the bodies that you're exploring. You're going to need human-rated habitats on all these items listed there, and then the infrastructure, cislunar space, moon surface, Mars orbit, Mars surface. So see if I can, okay. So there's some key milestones. I got these just from my knowledge, and starting in the 1950s, Sputnik, and I remember I was throwing the newspapers at the time when Sputnik 1 came up, and I remember the headline, Reds orbit satellite. So the Reds, they call them Reds back then, communists. And I was throwing the Fort Worth Press at that time. Then Explorer 1, we came back with the Explorer. There was a failure of the Vanguard 1 before the Explorer, but the Explorer, January the 31st of 1958. Then going through the 6 gentlemen listed there. And on my next slide, I'm going to show you some of the accomplishments that the Soviets did. You can see there that they were quite a few. Yuri and Valentina were the first male and female, respectively. You probably have heard of Project Gemini, Apollo. The N-1 lunar rocket was a Soviet rocket. I'll describe it in the following slides. The Soviets had secret space stations that's shown there, the Almaz and the Salyut. So they mass the Salyut and Almaz were really the same space station, except the Almaz had secret missions. Like I think they had even a space cannon on the Almaz station. And then the Skylab that orbited after the Apollo moon program in the United States. Mirror and Space Shuttle, Hubble, extrasolar planets. We now have thousands and thousands of solar planets that we've discovered, the ISS, the Chandra. The Shenzhou 5 and Shenzhou 17 are Chinese, basically space stations, spacecraft and then space stations. The Tiangong is their space, the Tiangong Space Laboratory, but that was followed with the Tiangong Space Station in 2021. And then listed on there, of course, you know about the Falcon and the James Webb Telescope, Space Launch System, and Starship. Starship, as I said, flew today and was successful. People don't know this, but it sounds like I'm a Soviet Union advocate. I'm really not. I'm an American. But I just wanted to list what the Soviets did. What I'm going to say this. I'm going to make these slides available. They'll be on YouTube. I'm going to send, if you can send me a copy of all the AIAA student members, I'm just going to send them these slides because I'm going to have to go through these fast. We'll be here till midnight. Rather than read these to you, that's all the first they did. And you can be amazed at that. Those are all things that they did before we ever got there. There's some key programs, lunar programs, the USSR. And again, this is, I'm not going to read the slide to you. You can get the slides after this meeting and read these at your leisure. There's a lot of lunar stuff going on. And later in my presentation, I'm going to show you all the lunar and planetary spacecraft that we've used. There's some more programs. The 1971 was the last Apollo landing, or excuse me, 72. With Apollo 17, and we have not been on the moon since, which is very disappointing. Skylab launched. It kind of got damaged, but it succeeded in its mission. I met some of the astronauts that were on Skylab, and they were very fruitful and productive during that mission. Okay, and then the Apollo Soyuz mission, the ASTP is the Apollo Soyuz test mission or test program. And that one I also flew back in '75. Here's some Soviet Union systems. You notice that big tall one? That's their moon rocket. They did have that. The one on the right is the space shuttle, which Buran, and it flew one time and then never flew again. This is a couple of years before the demise of the Soviet Union. On the left, there is a succession of Soyuz. The one on the far left is what got the Sputnik to orbit. So the Soyuz and its modifications and different variations have been very successful. And then if you want to look at a comparison, ours was a little bigger. And if you look down, let's see. Well, I can't show. Look at the bottom, on the bottom left, where the N1, it really goes under there. The engines stick out under the ground. There's like a basement under there. The Apollo Saturn 1 did not have, Saturn 5 did not have, its engines were all above, okay? Saturn versus N1 failures. That tabulates the failures of the N1. It launched on those dates and failed each time. So the seconds are shown there. The last one in November of 1972. The Soviets kept after it even after they knew they'd lost the moon race. You see that one on July the 4th. They were really trying really hard to land to beat us to the moon, but they didn't quite make it. Whereas the Saturn V had 13 successful launches and put 12 men on the moon. And 6 men in orbit around the moon. Here's the U.S. launch systems on starting with the smallest ones on the left and progressing to largest ones. And let's see, the current generation of space launch system, there's a manned version, the second from the right, and then the unmanned cargo type version on the far right. Here's some present international launch vehicles. And Delta IV Heavy is I believe it's still flying. Atlas 5, the Ariane 5 is now being replaced by the Ariane 6, or it's being replaced. Proton, Soyuz, and so on. The Delta IV Heavy, of those shown, I think it has the largest payload capacity. Japanese have their launch systems, as shown here, and they're doing very well in getting a presence in space with those systems. India has their launch vehicles, and these are all the polar satellite launch vehicle and the geosynchronous satellite launch vehicle go to respectively polar orbits and geosynchronous orbits. Then they have smaller vehicles that flew earlier, shown on the left there. Brazil and South Korea have launched vehicles, but Brazil, unfortunately, they when they launched the VLS, it exploded. Well, they had an explosion on launch and demolished their launch tower, and they got discouraged and have not flown that VLS or have not resurrected that program since. South Korea is still flying their vehicles, the narrow series. Here's some future vehicles. The Ankara on the left, that's the Soviet one. I think it's flown a couple of times, but the Russia is having trouble with their space program since with the present regime, its resources are stretched trying to fight a fruitless war against Ukraine. Chinese Long March. Then we've got the New Glenn. I think the New Glenn has not quite flown yet, but it's projected to fly. That says 20. It's really, I think it's projected to fly no earlier than 2025. And then the SLS and the Starship, and then the SLS cargo version. By the way, if there's any questions, feel free to raise your hand up. Okay, now, the US has also tried to do single stage to orbit and has had mixed success, well, really, not much success at all. The one on the upper left, that's the DCXA, it landed after a short flight and one of the legs collapsed and the whole vehicle just tumped over. And it was not, the program was discontinued. The aerospike engines shown on the top right, those compensate for altitude as you rise through the altitude. As you may know, nozzles are not optimized for complete altitude on the vehicle's ascent. They're under optimized for sea level launch, and then they're not optimized for high level launch. At some point in the trajectory, they pass through a regime where they are very efficient, but unfortunately, the aerospike is more efficient, but it's got problems. It's harder to manufacture. They have not really deployed any of these. They were going to use it on the Venture Star that's shown there on the lower left. And there on the right, on the lower right, you see the comparison in size. I was at Palmdale, California, watching them put together X-33 parts. That program was canceled, unfortunately. It was a single stage to orbit vehicle called the Venture Star. Lockheed Martin had envisioned that to be a single stage to orbit. And unfortunately, the program got canceled. Okay, let me see if I can pull this up. Whoop.
The Titan Dragonfly is coming together. NASA's new kind of nuclear rocket.
Yeah, but not all of it. Oh. Oh, okay. Stay with me. Okay, just, I just wanted to,
Getting more warning for solar flares and pinpointing carbon dioxide emissions from space. All this and more in this week's episode of Space Bites. I want you to wrap your mind around this idea. In a little over a decade, there will be a nuclear-powered helicopter flying in the atmosphere of Titan, Saturn's largest moon. It just seems like science fiction, and yet this is a thing, a mission that's actually been approved and is actually under development. And just to snap us into reality, we got a really cool test of one of the rotors. So, I say it's a nuclear-powered helicopter, but it's actually not either of those things. It's not a helicopter, it's an octocopter. So it's like one of those drones with 8 rotors at each corner. It measures about 4 meters across, 12 feet across, so it's going to be really big. And it will be nuclear powered, sort of. It has a type of power system on board called a radioisotope thermoelectric generator, which is just a decaying chunk of plutonium that is very hot, and it's able to then use a temperature differential to generate electricity to power all of its instruments. And these concrete tests, the thing is actually happening with a wind tunnel test called the Transonic Dynamics Tunnel. This is a NASA facility. It's a wind tunnel, but unlike regular wind tunnels where they can test different aerodynamic forces and shapes and so on, they can fill the wind tunnel with other gases. And so they're able to mimic the atmosphere of Titan and then fly these rotors in this Titan atmosphere. They're able to turn the rotors on and off, be able to change the tilt on the blades, and attempt to, say, recover from various emergency situations, and just show that to be patient. Spacecraft won't launch until 2027, but that's like 4 years away. That's not too long now. Like 2019, that was when we first learned about COVID. And if you can wait that many sleeps, then you'll have a nuclear-powered helicopter flying Titan. And then it's going to arrive at Titan in 2034. And then it's going to fly around on Titan, imaging the rocks, the boulders, the craters, and sand dunes. It won't make it to the methane seas, but still learn a tremendous amount about Titan. And still, I can't wait to see these pictures. NASA is considering a new nuclear rocket design. I mentioned this, that we're all over the new NIAC grants, and we are covering these stories over on Universe Today. We got a couple of them this week, but the one that really caught my eye is a bimodal nuclear power propulsion system. There are 2 forms of nuclear propulsion considered for space. One is called NTP, or nuclear thermal propulsion. And what happens is you've got some nuclear reactor on board your spacecraft. It gets incredibly hot and heats up a propellant, like say hydrogen, and then blasts this hydrogen out the back of the spacecraft, and it goes in the opposite direction. And this allows for a very high thrust, much higher thrust than a chemical rocket system. And it's been thought that a nuclear thermal propulsion system could knock months off the flight time of going to Mars. The other form of a nuclear propulsion system, it's actually kind of similar to the Titan Dragonfly that we talked about. It's called the nuclear electric propulsion system. What happens here is, once again, you've got a nuclear reactor on board, but instead of using the nuclear reactor to heat up the gas, you generate electricity and then use the electricity to power like a really powerful ion engine. Of course, a very powerful ion engine is a bit of an oxymoron, that even the most powerful ones that you can create, they're not very powerful. What they have going for them is they're highly efficient. They just sip propellant, they use electricity, and you can fire them continuously for very long periods of time, accelerating your spacecraft over long periods. And so the idea of this proposal is to put the 2 ideas together, have one reactor that is both generating heat that's used for the thermal propulsion system, but also be generating electricity that you're then using for your fancy ion engine. By fine-tuning and mixing those 2 propulsion systems at the same time, and they're also thinking some other ideas, adding a supercharger similar to what they do with cars, they think they can get the power up to about 4 or 5 times as powerful as a chemical rocket. And they think that they could bring flight times down to Mars to about 45 days. So just 6 weeks when we launched Earth to just 45 days. And one of the other big advantages is that we don't have to wait for these windows of opportunity to fly to Mars. Right now, you can only go to Mars once every 2 years, the times when Mars is at its closest point. But with a propulsion system that powerful, you can kind of fly to Mars whenever you want, or have fairly large shoulder seasons when you can go to Mars and when you can return. So if you need to send material to Mars quickly, or if you need to evacuate astronauts from Mars back to Earth, you've got a lot of options, and options provide a good safety margin for these kinds of missions that are inherently really dangerous. Now, this is a NIAC grant. It's just the initial investigative steps, but the two underlying technologies, the nuclear thermal propulsion system and the electric propulsion system, those are both well understood. Prototypes have been built. We know they work. It's about bringing those things together so the advantages and disadvantages will come together.
Okay, let's get the next video. And that's the deep space, yeah. Yeah, that one.
When we first arrived at St. Jude,
Okay, I'm not going to show, we're not going to show all of this. I just wanted to show a little bit of it.
NASA is inviting you to participate in the next monumental journey of a lifetime. A journey to extend the frontiers of human exploration. Gaze across alien landscapes and see our sun rise over new horizons.
I'm going to have to fast forward through some of this. Okay, there's the Dragonfly. That was
Its name is
Curiosity, that rover.
Its purpose is to determine if past conditions on Mars could have supported life and to investigate cosmic radiation challenges. These investigations will be useful in designing spacesuits and equipment to protect the astronauts while traveling there in the future. This journey will take about 9 months.
9 months using present propulsion, not nuclear electric and nuclear thermal. Let me see.
7 miles per hour with a heat shield.
Okay, that's the Space Launch System capsule reentering.
Around 75 degrees.
And I think that's about all I wanted to show here on this one. So NASA has, let's go ahead.
Prior to the crew's arrival.
Let's terminate
This mission also lays a
Go back to my slide. Okay, thanks. Okay. Oh, the asteroid redirect. That was where NASA hit an asteroid, and actually they found out you could redirect it. You punch it hard enough, the asteroid can respond. That could be a planetary defense thing. And whoop. So we had a meeting on Dragonfly, AIAA Central Florida section, and this was in, I believe, yeah, it was February the 15th. So that same speaker, I'm going to advertise that same speaker, Dr. Min, going to talk in May, the third Thursday in May, and he's going to cover a different topic. That was a very good presentation. Now, I'm going to run through these really fast because I don't want to. There's been a heck of a lot of lunar and planetary exploration, and that website up there, that will tell you in detail each one of these missions, which are quite a few. We're just going to step through them here. And I'm showing some examples. Let me go back. Oh, yeah. On the lower right, you see the Sputnik 1 and Sputnik 2. And if you look at the Vanguard down there, it was the size of a small grapefruit. Sputnik 1 was about, bigger than a basketball. It was like, a yard or more. Sputnik 2 weighed, whatever it says there, 508 kilos. It was huge. So if you compare our puny Vanguard, the Vanguard satellite to the huge Soviets, you would think the Soviets were very far ahead. But our small satellites had a lot of instrumentation. So even though the Soviets built larger satellites than we did, ours obtained about the same amount of scientific information. All right, this shows just the Mars 1 and the Mariner 2 spacecraft. This is the Ranger, which was sent out to the moon to a lunar impact on the surface. Luna, the Soviets had a whole series of spacecraft called Luna, and they were what the name implies. They're going to the moon. Surveyor was a lunar lander, and Venera landed on the surface of Mars and basically baked itself to death. We found out, we didn't know that Mars was so hot and inhospitable. It's at 70 Earth atmospheres, and the surface is hotter than the hottest oven that you can purchase. Here's the Apollo 11 landing and the Lunokhod. The Lunokhod was the Soviets' version of our lunar rover. It was unmanned, and it did succeed in retrieving a small amount of surface samples and returning them to the Earth. But the Apollo astronauts returned something like 400 pounds, whereas the Lunokhod was only able to return on the order of less than a kilogram of material back to the Earth. Okay, there's the Pioneer and Viking landing on Mars, and Pioneer went to explore interplanetary space. Now this, on the upper right, it shows the Voyager spacecraft, and they're exiting the sun's heliosphere, as shown there. And interesting, the Pioneer spacecraft are going in the opposite direction. So we're kind of heading in all directions from the sun. But I'm just illustrating the Voyager spacecraft there. And the Vega 2 was another mission, as shown on there. None of these missions another mission on Venus, and none of the spacecraft that either we or the Soviets landed on Venus survived any appreciable length of time. There's the Jupiter mission spacecraft. Okay, and then here's some more. Galileo. Oh, that was Galileo. And then the New Horizons, which explored Pluto, and it obtained very interesting images of Pluto. The Galileo did a plunge into the Jovian atmosphere, as shown there, and returned good data. The lunar L-Cross mission basically struck the lunar surface and was able to obtain a lot of data just from the dust and the impact that came out. And the Chang'e was the Chinese version of our lunar landers. They did land on the moon. The Tianmen-1 is another version of our lunar landers made by the Chinese. I believe that's India, did the Chandrayaan-2. So a number of countries have now landed on the moon. The Jupiter Icy Moons Explorer, JUICE, it did a flyby on missions to Jupiter and the moons. And the intuitive machines, as shown there on the lower right, they did land on the moon, And one thing I heard was that one of the legs toppled over, but I think it only went part way, and it didn't just like totally tumble over. So they were able to claim partial success. And landing on the moon is difficult because you don't know what kind of rocks you're going to land on. The Apollo 11 astronauts had to maneuver the command module, the lunar module, around some rocks, or else they would have gotten killed. So the moon surface is peppered with rocks. And let me see, we're getting to the present now. Okay, then here's some future missions. And the day, and by the way, when you get on that website, you can click on these and it'll give you detailed information for each of the missions. Martian moon, there's a Martian Moons Explorer mission that's going to find out in 2026, courtesy of Japan, going to find out, explore the lunar surface. So then NASA says, why explore space? So I'm going to present some charts now that show NASA's take. NASA has done a lot of space planning and architectural analysis of why, space architecture, what we need to do, why do we need to go to explore space, and what we're going to do when we get there. So this is what I'll call a government view. You got three aspects: inspiration, science, and national posture, according to NASA. And you can read those things, those benefits for each one of those three parts of the pyramid. I'll call it a pyramid of why we want to go to space. Especially the moon and Mars will strengthen these three pillars, leading to a new era of science and discovery. So NASA has this big document called the Moon to Mars document. It's you can pull it. You can find it on the web, and then they have. I have here. It's a 434-page document that describes everything more than you ever wanted to know about the Moon to Mars and why we should go there. I'm just going to highlight some things here. Here we show four aspects of our four architecture segments: human lunar return, foundational exploration, sustained lunar evolution, and humans to Mars. So those are like four segments. And so what NASA has done, they have broken down each one of these four segments into very exhausting detail of explaining, breaking those segments, gives out what we want to accomplish when we get there and what we're going to do. Again, you can read this slide when they're distributed after this presentation. Here, they also have some sub-architectures as shown here. So each sub-architecture represents a task, technology, or process that NASA must master to achieve the Moon to Mars objectives. And so there's, let's see, they got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, 10, 11. Looks like they have 12 sub-architectures. And each one of them is comprised of, in turn, its own objectives and its own descriptions and so on. You can, again, see these on your own. You got mobility, transportation, infrastructure, habitation, logistics, power. Let's see, visual utilization systems, in situ resource utilization, or IRU. That's where you're going to exploit the resources of the body that you're on, whether it's an asteroid or the moon or Mars, so that you can live and prosper. This is kind of like a very detailed communication network. So NASA has already envisioned and made plans for a very complex notional communications, navigation, pointing, and tracking. That's what CP&T architecture is. And there it's illustrated with all the parts and the components that make up that architecture. Okay, so now we're going to look at how to get to Mars and back. We got a crew variant and a cargo variant. So what's actually going to happen is they're going to send cargo first and land it on Mars. That'll happen no matter who gets to Mars, either commercial interests or the government. And then as shown there, they've got a Mars descent stage to bring things down to the surface. There's various ways you can do that, as shown there. Then on the right, on the left, you've got the nuclear electric propulsion, nuclear thermal. If we use those, we're talking and combine those that was shown to you in a previous film, we're talking missions to Mars in the order of 45 days, top 60 days, less than 2 months. And so I'm prophesying that's what's going to happen as opposed to these nine-month one-way missions to Mars. It's going to be more like less than 2 months because there's too many dangers. It's too expensive. Astronauts cannot be exposed to that interplanetary environment for very long without damage. They're weightless, so a lot of things happen to your body when you're weightless. And so I think those top two, the bottom 3 and 4 are less likely. Maybe they can use those for communication satellites or, so although NASA has the Space Launch System, I see that going to the moon, but I think in the long haul, we're going to need better than just straight chemical propulsion to accomplish our objectives to get to Mars and stay there. This is a chemical only rocket view. This is what NASA envisions now, using chemical rockets to go to Mars. It's very detailed. They've got a lot of missions shown there. And it's interesting, so SpaceX and Blue Origin and Intuitive Machines and other commercial companies, they don't have this complicated architecture. But I prophesy that they're probably going to be, eventually they're going to overtake, I think, the government as commercial industry slowly uses the profit incentive and economic incentive to produce. It's just like in the West, the Wild West, when the tourists that colonized, that made it not wild, but built cities and commerce entities. The same thing is going to happen, I think, in the long term between now and 2050 with Mars. Now look at this slide. Okay, so you see the crew time allocation. See that personal activities and sleep. So this is kind of like what NASA envisions. So I kind of thought about this and I said, wait a minute. So they're going to rest and goof off for 2/3 of the day and work the other third. And I was thinking if these were SpaceX employees, it'd be just the right opposite. They'd be working and sleeping the green part. And so I think this is, again, industry will drive a lot of activities on there. Now here's, so these are basic objectives. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8, 9, these are 10. Yeah, that's right. It's 10 objectives. So in my subsequent slides in the back of my presentation, I've got breakdowns of all of these objectives. I'm not going to get into those because we don't have time, but I did want to show you that the basic objectives are shown on that slide, and all those make sense. So I'll do all the science. Physical sciences, human, biological, applied sciences. A lot of these science objectives are more for NASA doing. The industry will be more focused on building a Mars and lunar infrastructure to accomplish a purpose of eventually making a profit off of space infrastructure. Oh, I'm going to go rapidly through this. This is, I just wanted to throw this in there to show you that Florida, we are very fortunate to live in Florida. We have, as shown there, a lot of employees and Floridians working in different, bringing in 5.2 billion. This is an old slide because I think this current investment is more like, what's that, 7.1 billion in 2021. So it's growing, and we're increasing our startup venture investment from 2000 to 2020 to 21. So, and it's getting in the Space Coast, as shown here. And we have defense industry, as well as commercial optics, modeling, simulation, and training, as shown on the left there. That's a big deal for Orlando in particular, and UCF, where the government has different offices that do model simulation training, and UCF has, I think they have a school of modeling and simulation. Okay, now another entity that I work with is called the Space Propulsion Synergy Team. This team developed 24 basically infrastructure elements as shown here. And again, I apologize, this is a reading chart. I'm not going to have time to read these, but just know that there's 24 infrastructure elements. And you could say, well, it's going to need 38. It's going to be 48 infrastructure elements. I don't know. It depends on who. You're going to have an infrastructure, whether it's 24 elements or 24 or 30. But if you look at this, it's just common sense. You're going to have in this case, the SPST wanted a fully reusable two-stage orbit up there on the upper left. Then the lunar orbiting platform, lunar surface transportation system, LAF support, power stations for lunar surface on the lower left. See, I develop a comprehensive. So you see those things on the right, lunar production. Now see there, numbers 20 and 21 and 22. Now you're starting to get where industry takes an interest, where you're actually making things. Number 24 develops space-based solar power process systems. So there's going to be some slowly. It's going to take years, probably decades, but eventually commercial interests are going to predominate. NASA will still continue, and the government will still continue to do a lot of science. Yes, they do lots of science, a lot of telescopes, a lot of, the James Webb Space Telescope type thing, and all the missions that are the planetary and lunar science missions. But industry is going to be the one that are going to be the heavy, do the heavy lifting, in my opinion, in the far term for interplanetary exploration. This SPST also developed 18 categories of space laws. NASA totally left out space laws. You're going to have laws out there. And this, on Earth, the rule of law has been a foundational element for the growth of thriving and peaceful civilization. So you won't find any law in NASA's Moon to Mars objectives. So this team did come up with 18 categories. Here's 9 of them: liability law, orbital debris regulations, civilian jurisdiction law, lunar surface law, waste, extraction and mining, building. Are you going to need building codes on the moon? Not initially, but in 40 years, yeah, you're probably going to have building codes on the moon. And eventually on Mars, maybe in 60 years. Nuclear law for power and propulsion. So you can't just, pollute the environment, radiation regulations and so on to keep nuclear power from devastating the environment. Here's the next 8 or 11 categories, standards. You're going to have standards. We now have on the Earth electrical standards. We got pipe fitting standards. We got all kinds of standards. So standards are going to be used in space as well. Cooperation framework, rescue accords. What about what kind of the law of the sea? Right now we have, I would call it rescue accords for emergencies on the world's oceans, where we will need the same thing for people that are stranded. Suppose somebody's stranded in the middle of a lunar crater. You need to have, it would help have an accord and standard procedures for rescuing a person that was needed rescue. Who owns the intellectual property on the lower left? Proprietary economic IP. You betcha. The companies are going to grab data ownership, and it's going to be their property, their intellectual property as far as building anything. A more efficient way to excavate lunar soil, for instance. A company would get a patent on that and enforce it. Telecommunications rates, criminal law. So eventually, with more and more people, you're going to have criminals. So there you go. You're going to need criminal law and policing, planetary protection. You're not just going to send. We can't allow 50 or 5,000 space colonists on Mars to pollute the surface and contaminate it. And there you go. Inflammables and explosives and military. They call that military classifications. Now, I want to put something out to you. Where's the military going in space? Are we going to have, we got a military space, what is it called? A Space Force, the Space Guardians. So are we going to have military in space? I think so. Anybody that doesn't think we're going to have military in space? The Chinese, the minute the Chinese threaten anything or even have a presence in space, you betcha we're going to have something to counteract or to. So here's kind of like a cross-reference table. On the left, you got the 24 infrastructure elements that SPST says are important. And on the vertical axis, you got the different space law categories. Everything from traffic management to waste to extraction and down to military clarification. So anyway, and it has a Y in it. It means, yes, there's an intersection there. It's required. You see the legend there. And then they have the superscripts only if in particular conditions apply. Then you can look at those. All right, fly explore space. So now, does industry want to get into space? Well, you got these things. So there you see on the left, asteroid belt, the different kinds of asteroids and sizes. And so a large, a lunar excavating, or it could be, this could be excavation equipment on a large asteroid excavating for rare earth minerals. Some of these asteroids are tremendously rich in resources that we terribly need. And the other thing I wanted to emphasize was, so instead of thinking of using these resources and hauling them all the way back to the Earth and you know, orbiting them down into Earth and landing on the planet and all that, no. I think that eventually we're going to build a whole space infrastructure. You're going to need resources in space to help guys that live in space, communities, eventually cities. And as I'm going to show you in a few slides from here, you're going to have tremendous structures in space. Probably not in my lifetime, but by the year 2100 and the year 2200. Here's some, we're going to have space hotels. Now on the left there, why did I call that wishful thinking? Well, because it's going to be rotating. It's more like shown on the right. You know, you're going to have artificial gravity. So I think that for any kind of extended duration in space, you're going to have artificial gravity, no ifs, ands, or buts. And if you look at the center of that wheel, you could have like a swimming pool shaped like a circle, and you could have all kinds of things going on that you can't do on the Earth's surface. But with that centrifugal force, you can simulate 1G. They may decide to just go with 0.8 G. I don't know. There's a trade there. Nobody knows how a third, Mars has a 0.38 Earth G on the surface of Mars. We don't know, is that enough to prevent damage? Is that, will humans adapt? I think that human species will adapt, and you know, in 200 years, people that have lived on Mars for a long time will probably be taller and have adapted to the Martian lesser environment. We're going to do, the private enterprise is going to do construction, solar power satellites, build a refueling depot, maybe an advanced lunar base like that. It's probably going to be commercial enterprises that'll do those things, not the government. Manufacturing in space. We can do all kinds of things. Debris removal. Some of these things, an in-space economy will be funded by the government, but other things will be for profit. As shown there, crewed spacecraft, space situational awareness, on-orbit servicing. There's all kinds of things that will be necessary for in-space economy to be, and I predict it will be. When is this going to happen? Not in 10 years, more like 50 to 100 years. In 200 or 300 years, you're going to see this. Maybe even less than that. You know, Carl Sagan thought he had these visions of these huge structures and thought, oh, well, you know, well, Carl Sagan's what, he passed away 30 years ago. I don't think, it's anybody's guess how soon we can make this happen, but I think it's going to be after my life. Well, I know it's going to be after my lifetime. I would predict by the time your great grandchildren are grown, they probably could choose to live in one of these habitats. And there's a torus. Here's another some more concepts. You'll have farming, agriculture. Look at the size on the lower left. 1.1 mile across. Yeah, eventually. Where are they going to get the materials to construct these vast structures? Probably by then we'll bring it. A small asteroid will be more than large enough to build some of these structures. If you would have to mine it, demolish it, and it'd take a lot of work. Okay, now look at this slide. So look on the lower, a very expensive, I mean, isn't that great? You've got a forest there, but nobody's there. If you look on the upper right, that's more like, you got to have dense occupation. You can't afford, trillions of dollars on one of these things to have nobody live there. It's just not going to happen, I don't think. And you look on the upper right, upper left, you see the 5 mile wheel there, and that's about the size you're talking about. Then you'll have rotating habitats manned by with human occupants that can live under 1G, and they'll have to be shielded from from the solar wind and from hazards from the solar environment. There's another one. There you go, farming. Instead of bringing food up from the earth, you just produce it on your. Oh yeah, this is the one. Okay, see there the dense city there on the right. That's more likely. If you're going to have one of these, you're going to have parks in there like Central Park in New York City, but you're going to have a densely populated, many trillions of dollars worth of habitat, but it's going to be more like densely populated. Far future. Ring world, you see that ring? Here, let me show you. Oh, I haven't got. Okay, so you see there on the upper left, there's a ring. In this case, a ring world going around the sun. Maybe in 2,000 years. It's hard to predict. And really in the future, you can capture the power of a whole star. Have you all heard of a Dyson sphere? Anybody? Oh, a number of you. Okay. So Dyson sphere, you capture the power of an entire star. There's the sun in the middle there. You got Dyson bubbles. You can have Dyson swarms around a central star. You could build these swarms around dwarf stars like red dwarf stars. And I see that happening in a few thousand years. Now you have a whole thing in closing. You have a Dyson sphere or shell, a Dyson space shell. It's enclosing the whole. Now, so where are they going to get all the material to build that? Well, in thousands of years from now, you're going to have the resources around some other star with large planets to build such a structure and harness the power of a star. And over here, I'll show you that this is like a really far future. It's one of my last slides. So you see, have you all heard of the Kardashev scale that's shown there? Anybody? Some of you. So Kardashev was Nikolai Kardashev, call it type 1, type 2, and type 3. So type 1 could harness the energy of a whole planet. Type 2 can harness the energy output of its whole star. But shown here is a type. So there you go. And something along these lines would be maneuvering planets and all kinds of things. By then, we will have mastered how to do that. Okay, so here you go. So see the caveman there? That's the caveman would be totally mystified. Oh my God, planes? What are those? Cars? What are those things moving there? Are there actually people in there? And then the businessman, the 1980s person or 90s, he's going to say, what? A floating city in a battleship Galactica? Oh my word. And then the kid, your grandchildren or your kids are going to look there and say, well, wait a minute. Space warp shown there? Aliens? who knows? So then it shows there each generation is as bewildered as the one before. So there you go. That's one of my last slides, I think. Yeah, then I have my backup. So here I broke up. I'm about done. How much? I'm about out of time. I'm going to start opening it up for questions. You can read these on your own. I'm not going to. There's the 10 elements. Lunar. Let me just start over. Okay, so you got the 10 objectives there, and for each one of those, you got lunar science, heliophysics science, human biological science, physics and physical science. And there you go, all the objectives that NASA foresees. Applied science, they've got a goal and objective. Lunar infrastructure with its goal and its different objectives, and the Mars infrastructure. Now look at this Mars infrastructure. Huh, that's small. That's just the first, I mean, that's incomplete in my opinion. You're going to have a huge Mars infrastructure, a lot bigger than the moon. But right now in 2024, that's all we can come up with right now for that. Transportation and habitation. Develop and demonstrate integrated system of systems. There's lots of things going on with developing transportation and habitation. And finally, operations. So it's fine that the government, and in this case NASA, is looking at all these things for the good of the country and the world actually, but when commercial industry gets in there, and that's my last slide. So now I would like to open it up for questions. And that completes my slides. And you're going to have to, it's almost 9. We got time for a few minutes questions.
Yeah, I can go first. Well, first, thank you. There's a lot of talk about, private versus government, space development. And, it feels like nowadays the government is straying further away from science funding. And I just wanted to ask, is there a wrong place to look for a job? That be it private or government, because there's been a lot of layoffs, especially like the Jet Propulsion Labs in California. I know like half of their workforce has been just, laid off. So, yeah.
Yeah, but you live in Central Florida, right?
Yeah.
So we've got the Cape is doing a big presence with Lockheed Martin. But Seattle. And I was trying to find a job in the early 70s. I gave up and just joined the military. There were no jobs. It's a lot better now, in my opinion. I've got, by the way, another briefing that I'll make available that talks about how healthy Central Florida is.
You have your card that you're speaking for us. Before I ask the question, just so we have a dedicated moment, I feel like we should all give a round of applause for Walter. This is the moment to do it. I felt like everyone was hesitating, so I wanted to at least get that out there. Hey, Walter, I gotta ask. I'm curious. What's your opinion on Elon Musk?
I wrote a book that talked about Elon Musk.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've written 4 big books. Jay, how many people here would like a PDF copy of my books? Okay.
That should be every hand.
So what I'll do, I can't give you a physical copy. I have to charge you a couple $100. I can give you a PDF copy. So it's volume 3, which is called In Space to, volume 4 is the Everlasting Frontier. That talks about Musk, I think pretty, on balance, pretty well of him. I don't totally agree with everything. I don't agree with his take on family, work-life balance. He balances work and then life. Here's life and work has got the seesaw down. I don't agree with that, but in his defense, that's what it took to get reusable. It takes vision. It takes a lot of hard work. He would spend nights working at the Tesla factory. He would like have a house or something and just, he's crazy. I wouldn't do that. But so on balance, yes, positive.
Got it. Hey,
I don't agree with him on artificial intelligence. He thinks artificial intelligence is going to, and by the way, so he thinks it's going to be bad. Next month, in April, we're having a guy talk about artificial intelligence at our next AIAA meeting. Let me see, he's going to, Link Parikh, he's going to talk, his talk is how to ensure AI success in aerospace programs using systems engineering methods and prescriptive techniques. So he's going to be presenting a talk on artificial intelligence. It's good. I think artificial intelligence is good, not bad. I encourage my students to use AI to the extent it makes sense. Yeah. I don't see the robot. By the way, in that book that I told you that talks about Elon Musk, I have this caricature of a bad AI. I show that, the skeleton face, the skeletal. No. Okay.
So it kind of seems like all of the commercial push for space, at least through a lot on the rare earth metals and things. Do you think that's the exclusive domain of like commercial expansion into space?
Do I see that as the exclusive incentive for?
Yeah.
No.
What is other than that as a primary leading pushing force for them? What would they be? Would they be working as like a shuttle service for governments to get to places?
So the government's going to be just like right now. The SpaceX has the government as a customer for landing on the moon with their Starship. Government's footing the bill. They're under contract to land on the moon, right? The descent stage. So yes, the government's not going. The government and governments around the world, the Chinese, they're not going away. But industry, it's going to take a long time because you got to build that infrastructure. This is a lot harder than the Wild West, where you just you're going wagon wheels and find a piece of land to hide. And the government gave grants, 640 acres, I think, or some amount, to people that wanted to build the first West. Well, so that's remember where I showed you about the laws?
Sure.
So you're going to have property ownership law. Who owns the moon? If the Chinese plant a flag, does that mean that they're going to keep everybody else away? That's a law. So yeah. Let's see, did I answer your? So you?
Yeah, you sure did.
You wanted to know. There's other incentives besides just rare earths. In my opinion, it's going to be incentive is going to be to manufacture things and provide things, just like the Western expansion. So the West started exporting the beaver pelts and everything to the East. So I see exporting things from space to the Earth. But eventually, as more and more people populated the West, they provided those resources to people there. They didn't ship everything to the same thing's going to happen in space. Okay.
Thank you.
Question?
Yeah. It's just for the recording. There you go.
Thank you, Walter, for coming out. Awesome presentation. Just a quick question on asteroid missions. OSIRIS-REx, recent asteroid capture and the materials and everything. It's pretty awesome, and that's like one of the main ways I feel commercial pickup for space is going to come through that aspect. What do you think is holding us back right now on asteroid mining?
Everything. It's hard to get there. We can barely in place at all to mine anything. They dug into an asteroid. I think it's the material we've got brought back from asteroids is like less than a gram, a few grams, and that's it. Well, no, you're talking tons and tons for anything that's commercially fruitful. Because right now they're just doing science. So to answer your question, it's hard. Space is hard, and that just takes a long time. Be patient.
I feel like that's for us students. Here, get on it early.
And the future of those, but I was also looking into the future of space telescopes, and what's it going to take for us to make space to the next level, basically? Is it going to be like something that Starship, where we can launch a really, really big space telescope and answer the question of what types of planets are out there? Can they harbor life?
That's an excellent question having to do with extra solar panels. So right now, there's a third, the biggest telescope is the very large telescope, I think, in Chile. I think they have plans for a 30-meter. Right now, what is it, like, I think it's 20 meters across, primary mirror broken into segments. That's a big size. 30 meters, there's a limit, I've heard there's a limit to how economical it is to build Earth-based telescopes that large. The James Webb is, it's pretty good size. I think it's, what about at least 7 meters across, 7.9. But are you talking much larger?
Ultraviolet
Well,
spectrum.
there's a LISA, the laser interferometer space antenna, where they're going to put 3 satellites in a triangle and use those to measure gravitational waves. Because right now on Earth, so in other words, on Earth we only have the Hanford and Livingston, Louisiana. We have there's a few miles, and as a gravitational wave goes through there, they can actually measure the vibration, the change in the distance. With the laser interferometer space antenna out in space, they're going to be a lot more accurate measuring gravitational waves. But your question about just getting bigger and bigger, no, I think there's a limit. And I don't think it's going to take that much bigger for us to actually, we're on the verge of finding atmospheres on extrasolar planets with what we have. I think James Webb is going to, the one after James Webb is for sure. James Webb will touch on getting atmosphere, detecting life.
It will? Okay.
I think so.
So, yeah. I think the next one after that is called the Roman Space Telescope. And then after that, they want to do, they're picking between a few there's one called Louvoir and a few other ones. But they said they either need Starship or they need the SLS to launch that one.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a.
And so I was in a presentation at the SciTech 2024 here in Orlando, and NASA talked about they're actually testing an NTP, a nuclear thermal engine. They're going to launch something in space and test it. NASA is within like a couple of years. Does that mean we have a huge engine take us to Mars yet? No, but at least we're working towards it. Question.
That's fine. I like the anticipation. All right, thank you again for coming in. My question is, I know you've done a lot of research on the specific companies. You know, we see all these like fantastical things up in space, you know, the colonies, the moving around. Which companies, in your opinion, do you think are the most forward-thinking in terms of that sort of stuff?
Right now?
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
first of all, there's going to be ones in 10 years from now that we haven't heard of that are going to be coming out because new ones. But right now, SpaceX and Blue Origin are front runners. People like Intuitive Machines, there's different companies that are always going to rise. So now if you could apply for a job with SpaceX or Blue Origin, but you know, I don't know if you want to move to Hawthorne or whatever, but are you asking because you want to get a job there or?
Well, I just want to know, in your opinion, which ones you keep an eye on typically.
Well, not Lockheed Martin or Boeing.
Well, that's obvious now.
So I'd go with the smaller companies, smaller, more nimble ones. Startups are difficult. I would look at companies like Astro Labs is one, for instance, that they've already started. They've gone through the pain of startup, which is a pain. So now they're viable, and now you could. But I wouldn't, you know, I would aim for that if you want to aim for a job. And I can't tell you the names because they're going to change. If you send me an email, I can do some research and get back to you.
Yeah, hey, I appreciate it.
I've got my card here somewhere. Come check with me.
Sure.
Okay, any more questions?
Well, I just wanted to, what's going on with Lockheed or Boeing?
Oh, I didn't want to poo-poo them. I think I answered him, and I encourage my students to work for a large company like Lockheed or Martin or Boeing because you're going to get great experience.
Of course.
But his question was, who are the front runners for getting out there in space colonization and that's Boeing and Lockheed are going to come along, but not as fast as the smaller players. No, get a job for Lockheed Martin or Boeing. I work for Boeing. It's a great job. It's a good company. Thank you for attending, and I wish you luck on spring break.